After going down 2-1 in the NBA Finals, the Warriors found a way to come out and respond when they needed to the most in game number 4 and even up the series and basically make it a best of 3 where they have 2 of the last 3 games in the series at home. They have the momentum. They're the ones that ultimately control their fate and destiny. So Game 5 was going to be a critical game for the Cavaliers to try and wrestle that momentum back away, try to take a 3-2 series lead heading back to Cleveland for game number 6, whereas the Warriors were looking at winning Game 5 and putting themselves 1 win away from their organization's first championship since the 1975 squad. Well, ultimately, the Warriors were able to prevail. It was close and it was a battle, but ultimately they had a little too much for a little bit too long. The Cavaliers just ultimately couldn't keep up for long enough, and the Warriors found a way to win, and when they did, and now we're up 3-2 in the 2015 NBA Finals, heading back towards Cleveland in game number 6, where the Cavaliers are going to look behind LeBron James to extend their season, and the Warriors are going to try their best to put it away right then and there because you don't want any part of Game 7 because you just never know. So let's look back at game number 5, why the Warriors lost, or won, why the Cavaliers lost, and what we learned about this game and what it could mean for game number 6, and if there will even be a game number 7 in this final series. Now, in terms of the Warriors, there's many reasons that they won. You could talk about the fact that they shot almost 50% from the field and almost 50% from 3. A team that made its hay throughout the regular season with their shooting proficiency finally in some way started to show that shooting proficiency in this game, even though they still didn't get a whole lot out of Klay Thompson. This is still a team that's not firing on all cylinders. This is probably in Game 5 the closest they've come to firing on all cylinders offensively throughout this entire final series. They shot well from the field. They shot well from 3. More importantly for them, besides just their shooting advantage and a big one over the Cleveland Cavaliers, they had an advantage getting to the free throw line. 34 attempts to 21 for the Cavaliers. You could talk about that being the Cavs and LeBron not getting calls, the Warriors getting that home cooking, getting those calls. But in some ways, they were more aggressive, and they found a way to get to the free throw line more consistently, and that really helped out. Obviously, you look at Andre Iguodala. He's been a big factor in this series, perhaps the most important player for the Warriors throughout all 5 games, except when he goes to the free throw line, apparently. But you look at Iguodala. It's his ability to defend LeBron man up to at least where you're not going to shut down LeBron. It's more about containing LeBron and making him work as much as possible on the offensive end in order to get his points. And you look at LeBron, he has had some monster games in this series. There's no question about it. He's put a lot of points up, but he hasn't been the most efficient offensively. He's had to work hard. He's had to put up a lot of shots in order to do that. And Iguodala has been a big key to the Warriors' success against LeBron, even though LeBron, like I said, has been statistically great in this series in many areas. It's the fact that Iguodala can play him man up, and occasionally they can throw a Klay Thompson on him or Harrison Barnes, but primarily Iguodala can play LeBron man up enough to where the Warriors don't have to consistently break down their team defense by always having to double team. They can let Iguodala stay on LeBron, and they can just defend everybody else. That's a formula for success for the Warriors. You also look at Draymond Green, had another good game in this series after really not playing all that well the first 3 games. The last 2 games he's shown up to play. They got some nice contributions out of Leandro Barbosa off the bench as well, scoring in double digits. But ultimately, Steph Curry finally showed up in this series. What he did in game number 4, going off late, that even in game 3 you could talk about. It's just the fact of you finally saw flashes of the regular season MVP in this NBA Finals. You finally saw it. And even though Klay Thompson wasn't all that great, they didn't need him to be all that great because Steph Curry was dominant. He was jacking up shots and hitting them. We could talk about Dellavedova and his defense, and at times he's done a great job all throughout this series, and even at times in game number 5 of making Steph Curry work for it. But the shots finally started to fall for Steph Curry. And when those shots are finally starting to fall, it's really hard to beat the Golden State Warriors. It truly is. Now, in terms of the Cavaliers and why they lost, LeBron was LeBron again. He was monster. He was massive. He was aggressive. He did just about everything he could do. They went to a smaller lineup, which meant LeBron could post up a little bit more, what have you, even though I would still like to see him post up more. But again, it doesn't matter if LeBron scores 60 a game. If Dellavedova, Shumpert, and Smith continue to suck hind tit in this series from the field, it's not going to matter. And people will talk about J.R. Smith and the fact that early on he was hot in game number 5, and that was an encouraging sign for the Cavaliers. They needed him to finally show up. But then he cooled off quicker than the other side of the pillow, so to speak. Dellavedova, Shumpert, J.R. Smith. One of the stories of this series is the fact that as good as they were from the field, especially Shumpert and especially Smith in the Eastern Conference playoffs, they've been non-existent, complete and total non-factors on the offensive end in the NBA Finals. Those three combined to be 10 of 33 from the field. 10 of 33. 10 of 33. That's about 30%. When those three key guys are shooting 30% from the field, you're just not going to win many basketball games, let alone in the NBA Finals. It's also, I think, in part out of necessity, maybe out of panic. The Cavaliers felt that they needed to match up with the Golden State Warriors, and therefore they went to a smaller lineup, with Mozgov only playing about 9 minutes. But the problem is this is already not a deep team to begin with, so all they did was give some extra minutes to Mike Miller, and I don't really see where that's going to be a formula for success. Ultimately, what happened was, instead of the Cavaliers forcing the Warriors to adjust to them, the Warriors were able to force the Cavaliers to adjust to them. And as a result, I think the Cavaliers got out of their comfort zone and became too much of a perimeter-based team. And frankly, played right into the hands of the Golden State Warriors. You're going to get small and play small ball with the Golden State Warriors, you will lose. And the Cavaliers did. They were out-rebounded, so not only were they not shooting the ball well from the field, they weren't hitting the glass, they weren't doing a good job there, in part a consequence directly from the fact that they sat there and played that smaller lineup. Again, you look at it, it's really that lack of depth that caught up with them. Only 6 players scored, and again, when you've got Dellavedova, Shumpert, and Smith going 10 of 33 from the field, it's that simple. You're just not winning games in the NBA Finals. Like I said, it's not even really a formula for success of winning games in the regular season or early on in the playoffs. And this is the whole story. LeBron could do all of this and LeBron could do all of that, and he's having a tremendous series, and he is beyond question, no matter who wins this series, the NBA Finals MVP. If you really think that somebody like a Steph Curry should be the NBA Finals MVP, you are a moron, period. LeBron has showed up each and every single game of this series. There is nobody more valuable to their team in this series than LeBron James. He has been the best player on the floor consistently throughout all 5 games. He's had the most impact on the series. It's just the bottom line is LeBron James is the NBA Finals MVP, period. One of the most impressive playoff and NBA Finals performances from an individual that I have ever seen. And I think most of you have ever seen. But at some point in time, LeBron's just not going to be enough. While I respect and appreciate the fact that he understands what he has to do getting out of his comfort zone for the benefit of the team, the other guys aren't riding along with him. They're not helping him out. And when those guys like Delly and Shumpert and J.R. Smith can't shoot, you don't have a whole lot of viable alternatives. It's just not, again, a good formula for success. So what did we ultimately learn from game number 5 of the 2015 NBA Finals? Honestly, we learned that the Cavs can hang in at this point. They can hang in it, but they might not have enough to win it or even win another game in this series. LeBron, again, as I emphasized, he is the NBA Finals MVP. There are 2 types of arguments you can make. One, that LeBron James is the NBA Finals MVP, and the other one is that you're a moron if you don't think that's the case. Right now, the Warriors, though, they have all the control. They have all of the momentum. They've reeled off 2 straight victories. They've still got Game 7 at home in their back pocket if they need it. But you can see where the Warriors still have, at no point in time, really clicked on all cylinders in this series. It's just their superior depth and athleticism on the wing is really starting to catch up to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers can play better, but they probably won't. I mean, LeBron James had his most efficient night from the field, I believe, in this series since game number 1. But obviously he could be better from an efficiency standpoint. But certainly Dellavedova, Shumpert, and Smith, you would think at this point in time, could shoot better from the field. But based off of what we've seen in these finals, maybe they can't. You know, there's a better game out there for the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's what makes it no lock, stock, barrel guarantee that the Warriors can just march into the Quicken Loans Arena in game number 6 and win this series and win the championship. The Cavaliers can play better. It's just I find it very hard to believe at this point that they will. I just don't think they will. The Warriors can be better themselves. We haven't seen a great game out of the Warriors all season long as a team. We really haven't. But at this point in time, they probably don't need to have one. And they probably don't need to be a whole lot better. At this point in time for the Warriors, it's just stick around, and then as you're fresher than the Cavaliers, you find a way to execute better down the stretch and you find a way to win the game. It's what they were able to do in game number 4. It's what they did in game number 5. And that might very well be what happens in game number 6. As far as I'm concerned at this point in time, the series is probably over on Tuesday. But that's not a guarantee. I'd be surprised, but it's not for certain that the Cavaliers are just going to implode at this point. They haven't quit. They keep coming. LeBron is staying aggressive. If you have LeBron come out in game number 6 and he's a little more efficient from the field, and maybe a combination Delly, Shumpert, and Smith, 2 of those 3 can actually do something from the field as a shooter, and you get somebody like Mozgov into the lineup a little bit more, which is what I think the Cavaliers need to do, and he goes some business down low, the Cavaliers have a chance. The biggest thing is, though, is they need to slow this game down, and they need to control the tempo more. They need to get LeBron in the post more. They must do this. They have to do this because the more that they try to speed it up, the more they make it a perimeter-based game. They're playing right into the hands of the Golden State Warriors. They're allowing them to dictate the tempo. And the Golden State Warriors are better at playing Western Conference Golden State Warriors type of basketball than the Cleveland Cavaliers are, and it's that simple. I expect this series to be over Tuesday night. It's not a guarantee. I'm most certainly not totally writing off the Cleveland Cavaliers, but after what I've seen the past 2 games, I just think the time is up for Cleveland. It might be time to look forward to next year, and that more likely than not for Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, head coach Steve Kerr, and the rest of the organization, it might be the Golden State Warriors' time now.